In 2008, in a shopping mall that had opened 1 year earlier in Westlands, Nairobi, a small European-style cafe opened on the ground floor terrace. The cafe had wooden tables, a marble counter, an in-house bakery, imported espresso equipment, a wine list, and a design language that had never previously existed in a Nairobi coffee shop. The founder of the cafe was a man named Sagi Vaknin. The backers, per the trade press of the period, were a group of Israeli investors. The bet the cafe was making was on a demographic: Nairobi's upper-middle income professional, the expatriate consultant, the weekend brunch family, the Kenyan who wanted a European cafe inside a global standard mall. The cafe was called Artcaffe. 5 years later, on the 21st of September 2013, 4 Al-Shabaab gunmen entered Westgate Mall. The first shots they fired, per multiple contemporary witness accounts, were fired at or near the outdoor terrace of that same Artcaffe at the ground floor front entrance of the mall. 67 civilians and members of the security forces were killed over the 4-day siege that followed. 200 were wounded. The mall closed. The country was reshaped. And Artcaffe, a Kenyan casual dining chain that had grown to just 4 outlets in its first 5 years of trading, was, 4 months later, in the aftermath of one of the deadliest attacks in Kenyan history, announcing the single largest strategic scale up in its history. That is the specific story we are going to tell today. 18 years after it opened at Westgate, Artcaffe operates approximately 60 outlets across 6 brands, employs around 1,200 people, and sits, in mid-2026, at the center of a private equity ownership arc that connects it to Java House, to the Abraj collapse, to a U.S. private equity firm, and to an African food and agri-fund that now sits on both sides of Kenya's premium casual dining sector. This is the story of how a European-style cafe at a Nairobi mall became one of the most structurally consequential casual dining chains on the continent, and how it survived the specific event at the specific mall that changed everything. Hi again. Welcome back to the pod. My name is Farouk, and today we are going deep into the story of Artcaffe, which is, in some ways, one of the most quietly consequential Kenyan casual dining brands of the last 2 decades. 60 outlets, 6 brands, 1 founder still running the operation 18 years in, backed by a U.S. private equity firm since 2018, and, as of last year, connected at the shareholder level to Java House itself through a single African food and agri-fund. If you have listened to our Java House episode, this is the parallel story. If you have listened to our zucchini episode, this is the counterexample. And it is also, at its heart, the story of a small cafe on the ground floor of a Nairobi mall, and what that cafe had to survive to become what it is today. Let's get into it. To understand how Artcaffe came into being, we have to sit inside Westgate Mall in Westlands, Nairobi, in the year it opened. Westgate was developed by a Kenyan Ismaili businessman named Al-Noor Kassam and by his family's real estate operation, and it opened in 2007. It was the first mall in Nairobi built specifically to serve an upper-middle-income Kenyan and expatriate customer at a global luxury standard. The anchor tenant was Nakumatt, then the country's dominant supermarket. The retail footprint was 2 stories with an underground car park and a design language that had not previously existed in Nairobi retail. Westgate was the mall that put Westlands on the international shopping map. And Westgate was the mall that Sagi Vaknin, an operator backed by a group of Israeli investors, chose to open his first cafe in. The cafe opened in 2008. The name was Artcaffe. The format was European-style bakery cafe. All-day menu. Coffee, in-house bakery, salads, pasta, wood-fired pizza, burgers, breakfast, brunch, wine bar, cocktails. The customer was, from day one, positioned above Java House on premium, above Dorman's on curation, and above every other coffee shop in Nairobi on design. Java House, founded in 1999 by 2 Americans named Kevin Ashley and John Wagner, dominated the mainstream. Dorman's, the older wholesale roaster brand, dominated the coffee purist end. What neither of them had built was the design-heavy, all-day, European-style cafe that the incoming Westgate customer was walking through the mall to look for. Artcaffe filled that gap. For the first 5 years of the company's operating life, Artcaffe did not grow the way a private equity-financed chain would grow. It grew the way an operator-financed chain grows, one outlet at a time. Between 2008 and the end of 2013, Artcaffe added 3 additional Nairobi locations, taking the total to 4 outlets across the city: Westgate, Galleria, The Junction, Village Market, Thika Road. A 5-year run at less than 1 outlet per year. That is a pace consistent with a founder-operated, cash-flow-financed casual dining brand still learning its unit economics, still refining its central kitchen supply, still building out the Nairobi upper-middle brand that Sagi Vaknin's team had chosen to bet on. And then came the 21st of September, 2013. On a Saturday morning in September 2013, 4 Al-Shabaab gunmen entered Westgate Mall. The Somali militant group had, in its own claim of responsibility, framed the attack as retaliation for Kenya's Operation Linda Nchi intervention against Al-Shabaab inside Somalia. The gunmen entered through the front of the mall. According to multiple contemporary witness accounts and corroborated by the KIFC Lessons Learned report and by the KDF's own subsequent retelling, the first shots fired inside Westgate were fired at or near the ground floor outdoor terrace of Artcaffe, the cafe that fronted the mall's main entrance. The siege lasted 4 days. At least 67 civilians and members of the security forces were killed. Approximately 200 were wounded. The Kenya Defense Forces, the Israeli Defense Forces, and international counterterrorism assistance all became involved in the response. Named survivor testimony from within Artcaffe itself appeared in the Wikipedia record of the attack, in Foreign Policy's contemporary coverage, and in CBS News reporting. An Artcaffe employee, Patrick Correa, gave contemporary press evidence about the arrival of the gunmen into the cafe at the ground floor. He described taking cover during the shooting. He described gunmen in black turbans. He described what he had seen. The public record does not preserve a name list of Artcaffe staff killed at Westgate. The counter-terrorism reporting of the period listed civilians as an aggregate. What is on the record is that Artcaffe, 5 years old, 4 outlets in, had just lost customers and staff at its founding location in a national tragedy that would reshape Kenyan security policy for the next decade. 4 months later, on the 27th of January 2014, Business Daily broke the story that Artcaffe had reached agreement with a Kenyan coffee company called C. Dorman Limited to acquire 7 Dorman's coffee outlets. The Dorman family business, historically Kenya's oldest coffee roasting operation, had been sold by the UK-based ED and F-Man Group in 2011 to a third-generation Kenyan named Jeremy Block. Block, whose father was the 20th-century Kenyan industrialist Jack Block, had kept the parent roasting business and was now willing to divest the retail cafe outlets. Artcaffe bought them. The Competition Authority of Kenya cleared the deal on the 1st of February 2014. The financial terms were not disclosed. The strategic effect was immediate. Artcaffe went from 4 outlets to 11 in a single quarter. The Dormans deal was not, on its own, unusual. Kenya has seen many small chain-to-chain retail acquisitions. What made the Dormans deal narratively important, and what marks it out in the pre-scale Artcaffe story, was the timing. The mall reopening, the recovery from the loss, the funeral cycle for the Westgate dead, the police forensic investigation of the attack, and the Al-Shabaab post-attack messaging were all still ongoing in the country when Sagi Vaknin's team was signing the Dormans acquisition. Vaknin's public commentary at the time, quoted in How We Made It in Africa, acknowledged the company was recovering from Westgate losses while committing to expansion. The scale-up came in the same quarter as the tragedy. That is a specific, unusual, and consequential piece of operating history. Between 2014 and the end of 2018, Artcaffe Group did 3 things at once. It continued to open new Artcaffe coffee and bakery outlets across Nairobi's premium malls and standalone retail sites. It rolled the Dormans brand across the acquired outlets and expanded it, and it launched 3 additional in-house sub-brands: Urban Burger Bar, Tapa Ceviche Bar, Ocha Noodle Bar. Each of the new sub-brands was positioned as an alternative to the parent Artcaffe menu, but each shared the operating infrastructure of the group: central kitchen, bakery supply, back-of-house logistics, HR, Procurement. By the end of 2018, the group operated approximately 26 outlets across the 5 brands. It employed approximately 1,300 staff. It ran a group central kitchen and bakery that supplied every Nairobi outlet, and it had, in 8 years, turned a single Westgate ground floor cafe into the number 2 casual dining group in Kenya by outlet count, second only to Java House, which meant, in mid-2018, one thing: it was ready for private equity. On the 19th of December 2018, Emerging Capital Partners, a US-based Africa-focused private equity firm founded in the year 2000 by Hurley Dottie and Vincent Legenu, announced that its ECP Africa Fund 4 had acquired a majority stake in Artcaffe Group from the founders. The financial terms were not officially disclosed. Business Daily and the East African, citing insider sources, put the deal size at approximately 3.5 billion Kenyan shillings, roughly 34 million United States dollars. The Kenyan investment banking boutique Stratlink advised Artcaffe on the sale. Sagi Vaknin retained a minority stake and operational control. The group had, in a single stroke, moved from operator plus Israeli investor capital to US private equity capital. There is a specific structural point about the ECP transaction that matters. In 2012, ECP had led the first institutional round into Java House. In 2017, ECP exited its Java stake to the Dubai-based emerging markets private equity firm Abraj at a valuation reported at over 100 million United States dollars. Abraj would, in 2018, collapse into liquidation under the weight of a fund misappropriation scandal that would take down its founder Arif Nakvi and reshape the entire African private equity ecosystem. Java's stake would move in 2019 to the UK's Actis, and 6 years later, would move again in February 2025 into a Kenyan recapitalization led by Altera Capital Partners and Fatisa. That is Java's story. What matters for Artcaffe's story is that ECP sold Java in 2017 and, in the same 12 months, was in negotiation with Vaknin's team over the Artcaffe stake that would close in December 2018. Kenya's PE-backed casual dining sector went from one ECP-owned chain to a different ECP-owned chain in a single calendar year. The chains were swapped. Vaknin's own remarks at the December 2018 announcement were tight and on-brand. He said, "We are excited to partner with ECP, one of the most experienced investors in this sector and market." Paul Mastorp, the ECP managing director who led the deal, reciprocated. He described Artcaffe, and I quote him, as an iconic Kenyan brand that has become synonymous with best-in-class service, excellent coffee, food, and baked goods. The announced strategic plan included regional expansion into Uganda and Rwanda, matching Java's own East African footprint. 8 years later, in mid-2026, that regional expansion has not, on the public record, materialized. What did happen in the 2 years between the ECP close and the arrival of COVID was a rapid Nairobi expansion push. The 35th outlet opened at Westminster House on Kenyatta Avenue on the 13th of November 2019, with 250 seats, the largest single Artcaffe location up to that point. The pandemic arrived in Kenya in March 2020. Artcaffe's operating response was three-part. First, it defended the physical stores through delivery, accelerating its integrations with Uber Eats, with the Barcelona-based on-demand delivery platform, Glovo, and with the Pan-African e-commerce marketplace, Jumia. Second, it built out an in-house digital ordering pipe for grocery-adjacent items, ready meals, pantry staples, coffee beans, that would become, 3 years later, the foundation for the Artcaffe market launch. Third, it kept opening stores. In July 2020, a third CBD outlet opened at Chester House on Kimathi Street, framed in Business Daily and by the analyst firm Saitornen Investments as a signal of continuing expansion through the pandemic downturn. In December 2021, 4 more outlets were announced, 3 of them on Shell petrol station forecourts, and a 14,000 square foot 2-story flagship at Brigham Tower in Upper Hill, with a 500-person private terrace, the new largest outlet in the group. The Shell forecourt expansion is a specific operating signal worth pausing on. Historically, Petrol station. Forecourt real estate had been Java's most productive expansion channel. Kenya's petrol forecourts at Shell and at Total and at Rubis had built themselves into small commercial hubs, with quick-service casual dining tenants attached to the fuel stations along the Nairobi commuter routes. Java had leaned into that channel. Artcaffe, historically, had stayed inside malls and standalone premium retail. The December 2021 Shell push was Artcaffe signaling for the first time that it was willing to compete side by side with Java on the forecourt. In October 2023, Artcaffe Group launched Artcaffe Market, a gourmet, grocery and deli sub-brand with a flagship at Village Market in Gigiri. The format is not a restaurant. It is a curated premium grocery store with a deli counter, an in-house butchery, a bakery, a wine cellar and tasting room, a fresh produce section, and a same-day online delivery pipe operated through stores.artcafemarket.co.ke. The customer overlap with Village Market's zucchini outlet, which we covered in a previous Asili Africa episode, is significant. The two brands, Zucchini Fresh Produce and Artcaffe Market Gourmet Grocery, represent, in mid-2026, the two dominant premium grocery formats aimed at Nairobi's Gigiri, Mutaiga, Runda, and Karen households. The group had, in a single format launch, moved beyond casual dining and into premium retail grocery. On the 5th of June, 2025, the Africa-focused food and agri-private equity firm, Fatisa, announced a mezzanine debt growth facility into Artcaffe Group, deployed via its Fatisa Food Fund II. The transaction was disclosed by Fatisa as its first-ever mezzanine debt investment. The facility size was not disclosed. What matters about the Fatisa Artcaffe move is what happened 4 months earlier. In February 2025, Java House had been reorganized out of the UK's Actis ownership. Altera Capital Partners took majority equity, and Fatisa took a minority position with control rights. 4 months later, Fatisa was in Artcaffe's cap stack too. That is an unusual, structurally significant dual side position. It means, as of mid-2026, Kenya's two largest casual dining chains are financially linked at the shareholder level through a single Africa-focused food and agri-private equity firm. Whether that dual position hints at future consolidation, at sector-level coordination, or simply at parallel bets, is not yet on the public record, but the fact of it is. 3 things separate Artcaffe from the Kenyan casual dining and grocery brands that surround it. Not one thing, 3 at once. Each one, on its own, is unremarkable. Together, they are what Artcaffe is. The first is the capital. Java House was founded by 2 Americans and grew for its first 13 years on founder cash flow before ECP came in 2012. Zucchini was founded by a Kenyan Asian graduate in 1991 and has, in 35 years, raised 0 disclosed outside capital. Artcaffe was founded by a foreign operator, Sagi Vaknin, backed by a group of Israeli investors, and, 10 years in, sold a majority stake to a U.S. private equity firm. 6 years after that, added a mezzanine debt layer from an Africa-focused fund. In 18 years of operation, Artcaffe has had 3 material capital events. Zucchini has had one in 1991, and that was 35,000 shillings of personal savings. Java has had 4. Artcaffe sits in between the two, structurally closer to Java, with foreign capital defining the shape of the business. The second is the format. Java House is a single brand. Zucchini is a single brand, plus a sister bakery. Artcaffe Group operates 6 brands under a single corporate structure. Artcaffe Coffee and Bakery, Dorman's Coffee, Urban Burger Bar, Tapas Ceviche Bar, Ocha Noodle Bar, Artcaffe Market. Each brand serves a slightly different customer, a slightly different daypart, a slightly different price point. All of them share the central kitchen, the bakery supply, and the back-of-house logistics of the group. The multi-brand structure is what has let Artcaffe scale from 26 outlets at the end of 2018 to approximately 60 outlets in mid-2026, a 2.3 times increase in 6.5 years, without diluting the flagship Artcaffe coffee and bakery positioning. Sub-brands absorb the growth. Parent stays premium. The third is the founder. Saji Vaknin has been the operating founder of Artcaffe for 18 years. Under ECP majority ownership since December 2018 and under the Fatiza mezzanine debt layer since June 2025, Vaknin has remained the CEO. Every material group announcement of the last 12 years carries his name. That is a specific fact about Artcaffe that is different from Java. Java House has had 4 PE ownership changes in 12 years and multiple senior management changes across them. Artcaffe has had 1 majority ownership change in 18 years, and Vaknin has remained the operating leader through it. In Kenyan casual dining, that is unusual. And it is one of the reasons the group's operating discipline, its central kitchen quality, and its store-level brand consistency have held through every capital event. Those 3 things together are what has allowed Artcaffe to do the specific thing it is doing in mid-2026. After 16 years as a Nairobi-only chain, the group began its first material push beyond Nairobi in 2024. A Naivasha outlet at the Safari Center. A Nanyuki outlet at the Shell fuel station on the Nyeri-Nanyuki Road opened in July 2025. A Red Hill outlet at the Astrol petrol station opened in October 2025. An Artcaffe Market Nanyuki location sourcing herbs, greens, and vegetables from Olepangi Farm, a Mt. Anma, Kenya organic producer. That is the beginning of the geographic expansion that the ECP December 2018 announcement had promised. 6.5 years late. Executed under Fatiza mezzanine financing rather than ECP growth equity, and targeted at the Rift Valley, Mt. Kenya, and the northern commuter belt of Nairobi rather than at Uganda or Rwanda. Today, at the beginning of July 2026, Artcaffe operates approximately 60 outlets across 6 brands. It employs, across the network and the central operations, roughly 1,200 to 1,290 people. It runs a group central kitchen and bakery that supplies every outlet in Nairobi. It fulfills delivery through Uber Eats, Glovo, and Bolt Food, plus its own online store for the Artcaffe Market brand. It is 35% of the way to Java House's 96+ outlet count, and it is the number 2 Kenyan casual dining group by outlet count in mid-2026. The competitive context in mid-2026 is unusual. Copia is dead. Twiga is a business-to-business platform in restructure. Nakumat is a memory. Tuskies is a memory. Uchumi is a skeleton. Kenya's mainstream retail sector has been reorganized over the last decade by private equity and by development finance. Casual dining, by contrast, has consolidated but survived. Java House operates approximately 96 outlets across Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. Artcaffe operates approximately 60 across 6 brands in Kenya. Between them, Kenya's mainstream casual dining sector is now effectively a 2-chain market, and both chains sit in Fatiza's cap stack. 2 live questions sit against that mid-2026 position. The first is regional expansion. The plan announced at the ECP December 2018 close was Uganda and Rwanda. The plan re-announced with the Fatiza June 2025 MES was regional expansion, digital investment, and B2B growth. As of mid-2026, the confirmed expansion has been Naivasha, Nanyuki, and Red Hill. The Uganda and Rwanda outlets promised in 2018 have not, on the public record, opened. Whether they will open under the Fatiza financing in the next 24 months is the single most consequential operating question in the group. The second live question is the identity trade. The October 2023 launch of Artcaffe Market is the operational admission that the group's next growth vector is not another Artcaffe coffee and bakery outlet. It is a different category: gourmet, grocery, and deli. Format: Retail is a materially different economic model from casual dining. Different margin profile, different labor intensity, different real estate footprint. The pivot toward retail grocery puts Artcaffe market into direct competitive contact with Chandarana Food Plus, with Zucchini, with Greenspoon, and with Carrefour on the specific village market and Karen and Muthaiga customer that all of them are chasing. Whether the retail grocery bet delivers group-level accretion or whether it dilutes the flagship Artcaffe casual dining brand is not yet visible. It will be in the next 2 to 3 years. The single most striking fact about the Artcaffe story is the ratio between the events that have moved the business and the continuity of the person running it. In 18 years of operating history, Artcaffe has survived Westgate. It has doubled its outlet count in a single quarter with the Dormans acquisition. It has been sold to a US private equity firm at an insider estimated $34 million United States dollars. It has been layered with mezzanine debt from an African food and agri fund. It has been connected to Java House at the shareholder level through a single fund's dual position. It has launched a gourmet grocery sub-brand. It has pushed out of Nairobi for the first time. And through all of it, the same founder, Sagi Vaknin, has been at the top of the organization. The physical outlets and the capital stack have been reshaped constantly. The operating leader has not. The best measure of whether Artcaffe has worked is not the outlet count. Artcaffe has approximately 60. It is not the private equity valuation. Artcaffe sold at an insider estimated $34 million United States dollars. It is not the regional expansion. Artcaffe has not, in any material sense, left Kenya. The best measure is whether, 18 years after a European-style cafe opened on the ground floor of a Nairobi mall, in the specific corner of Nairobi retail where Westgate stood in 2008 and where the 21st of September 2013 happened, the cafe is still there, still serving customers, still owned and operated by the same founder, and still, in mid-2026, the number 2 casual dining brand of record in the country. It is. That is the entire measure. The rest is capital structure and sub-brand experiments. In 2008, in a shopping mall in Westlands, Nairobi, a small European-style cafe opened on the ground floor terrace. The founder was Sagi Vaknin. The backers were a group of Israeli investors. The bet was on Nairobi's upper-middle-income professional. 5 years later, on the 21st of September 2013, the Al-Shabaab attack on Westgate Mall began at or near the outdoor terrace of that same cafe. 4 months after that, in January and February 2014, the founder announced the acquisition of 7 Dormans coffee outlets, doubling the chain in a single quarter. 4.5 years after that, in December 2018, US private equity firm Emerging Capital Partners acquired a majority stake at an insider estimated $34 million United States dollars. 6.5 years after that, in June 2025, the African Food and Agri Fund, FATISA, layered a mezzanine debt facility on top. In the same year, FATISA took a minority position with control rights in Java House itself. 18 years after founding, in mid-2026, Artcaffe operates approximately 60 outlets across 6 brands, employs roughly 1,200 people, has begun its first material push beyond Nairobi, and remains, throughout, operated by the same founder. It is not the founder cash flow patience of Zucchini. It is not the 4 times PE reshuffle of Java. It is a specific, foreign-founded, foreign capital, multi-brand, multi-capital event, single-founder Kenyan casual dining story. And it started on a Nairobi Mall terrace in 2008. This is a silly Africa. Every empire has an origin. That is the story. And like every story worth telling, this one is still being written. If this episode made you see something differently, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I am Farouk. This is Asili Africa. Every empire has an origin. Now you know this one. So, start building, because yours might be tomorrow's origin story. See you on the next one.